Hello mortgage coaches, this is Jacob with support. Today's presentation is to show you how to put together a basic move-up buyer presentation inside Edge. So what I've done is I've made this a marketing report and I've given it a report headline. This is move up buyer. You could say move up to a certain price range, whatever you're looking for. And then in the goals, we actually want to leave these unchecked because we're going to use the current mortgage slot for their current home so that we can show them how they can use their current equity by selling that house to move up into another one. So I'm going to leave those goals blank. When we get to the assumptions, the only real important one here is going to be current property value because that's going to show up as the property value on the current scenario. And then when we get into the mortgage information, this is their current mortgage on their current home. So you'd enter this, let's say they took it out a few years ago. We have to assume that they have some amount of equity in this property that they can use for the down payment on the new property. So what I've done is I said they took this out at $235 3 years ago. So that means they're down at $224 right now, which gives them about $75,000 in equity to play with. And that's based on the fact that I put their current property value at $300,000. So they've got about 75 grand to play with, and they can use that for their down payment on the new move-up property. So I'm going to skip affordability entirely, but I am going to put in the monthly escrows. So make sure you put those in if you're going to carry them through the entire presentation. If you want to do just P&I against each other, that's fine too. Just make sure not to include them on either scenario, whether it's in the assumptions or the new product. But I'm going to jump right over to new product. And in order to make an accurate comparison here, and so I don't have to do the math, the real easy way to do this is we're going to use the copy from button. I'm going to copy the current mortgage. And you can see it brings it in terms of what we've got left. We can really see what's going on here. Their original down payment was $65, but they've accrued some equity over time. So they've actually got $75,000 worth of equity now. So my first thing to do now is to change this. We're going to uncheck the current mortgage box. And then I'm going to assume that $75,000 is going to be their new down payment. So this is not a refi. This is a purchase. And we're going to use $75,000 as their down payment. Now we want to plug in the rate that we can get for them. So let's say we can get them about 4.5 now. And then I'm going to hit the right arrow. Now as we look at the right side of this equation, we can see that we've got different payments here. And of course the reason we do, we've got a lower rate, we've got a low base loan amount. And because we use the copy function, our escrow is already carried through, so we're seeing the correct figures here. Now our goal is to try and maintain about the same payment for the borrower as he currently has, but move him up into a more expensive property. So what we're going to do is we're going to start adjusting this purchase price. So let's say if I go up to maybe $325, then I hit the right arrow, and you can see that brings us up to $1,700. So we can actually go a little bit higher. So I'm going to come back in. I'm going to bring this up to maybe $340. And that shows us a little bit higher. This is acceptable, but I think I'm probably going to bring it down because I want these to be just about even here. So I'll do $335. And that's pretty close. We're only 30 bucks off there. I could probably go a little bit lower. Maybe 330 would be the perfect number here. There we go. So 330 is the perfect number. We're only $2 apart on these. So now I know what to name this product. So I'll call this one Move Up to 330K. And because I use the copy function, like I said, the escrows are already in there. We've already done the appropriate matching to make sure they've got the same payment. They're using the down payment. This is the equity they have in their current home. So we're assuming they're going to sell their current home and they're going to move up into this new home. The next step is to input your fees. So let's get to the closing cost screen. And I'm going to go into my detail, find one of my templates here, and go ahead and apply that. You need to make sure and fill in your hazard insurance reserves and tax reserves. Now you're going to want to add one more line item because we need to disclose to the borrower that part of the cost to close here is going to be the proceeds from their current sale. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a custom fee. I'm going to call this proceeds from sale. And then I'm going to default this as a prepaid so it doesn't factor into the short-term analysis. And then hit OK. Now at this point, remember, the borrower has $75,000 he's going to be using for this. So I'm going to put minus $75,000. And I'm going to leave that as borrower paid. and leave the PPE checkbox down. Now what that's going to do is it's going to reduce the cash to close by the $75,000 that they'd be bringing in as a down payment. So I'll hit apply to loan. And then because I copied, the escrows are already in there, so we don't need to worry about that. As you can see, when we go through the analysis summary, the payments are just about the same to move into $30,000 more house than they're in right now. And then over the midterm section, it is going to save them $194 in interest over the 5-year period by just moving into this lower rate house. But the real deciding factor here is always going to be the long-term total net worth. And the reason for that is this shows the total equity and any liquid assets that you've gained for them. In this case, I didn't put any reinvestment strategies, so this is just the equity that they've gained. They've got more equity in the new house, and at the 15-year point, their net worth is indeed greater. Now, last step here. You want to make sure and put your payment notes in, so you want to disclose whether you included taxes and insurance. And then we can go to the last screen of the preview here. Make sure you've got a quote date, and then hit generate link. Now at this point, you can feel free to copy this link and send it directly out to your borrowers or whoever you're marketing to, but I would advise putting a video on this one because a move-up buyer presentation, if they just looked at it, they might not get your advice the way it's supposed to come across. So I would always advise hit add audio video, give them a short blurb about what you're trying to show, let them know that this presentation is showing them how they can use their current equity as a down payment on a new house that's worth more than what they've got right now at the same payment. And this, of course, will increase their net worth over the long term. Something like that, just short and simple, but remember, it's a marketing report, so it doesn't have to be directed at anyone individually. You just want to make sure your point gets across and it can follow your presentation in the form of a video. But that's about it. If you have any questions on this report or if you need any assistance on it, feel free to email us over at support@mortgagecoach.com. We're always happy to help. Thank you.